Thanks, everyone, for joining the session today. Really excited to talk about this topic. We're really going to dive into some of the part of the keynote that Chakri went through this morning on how to drive agility, how do we get risks and opportunities flowing into the planning system faster than ever. Personally, very excited about this topic because I think it's very relevant as there are so many changes and disruptions today in this world today, and it's sometimes hard to predict what's going to even happen tomorrow, let alone next week. So I think it's crucial to start thinking about how do we really drive agility into our supply chains, and how do we become more responsive and be able to coordinate across our entire organization. So with that, let's dive into it. So just to level set, we're going to talk about the current state. What is it like today? So all of this really boils down to three major themes. Number one, risks and opportunities are not flowing into the organization in a timely fashion. So what do I mean by this? There are various different risks and opportunities that arise, and oftentimes they're in very unstructured data points. So for example, they may be in emails, or they may be captured in different meeting transcripts, as well as, it may be across the web. So different things like risks, geopolitical concerns, or maybe there's tariff risks, and then different opportunities as well that we may be able to capitalize. These things are being discussed, again, in meetings and offline, and oftentimes these ideas do not flow into the planning organization in time. So that's number one. And number two, standard planning processes today are a bit too slow to respond. And why is this the fact today is that there needs to be some level of intelligence. So how do we make sure that these risks and opportunities are flowing into the right processes, whether they be near-term S&OE processes, or do they need to be flowing into the S&OP processes for mid to long-term decision-making? Today, a lot of times, they're not flowing into the right areas, and by the time we do, supply chain teams are reacting. Number three, the financial trade-offs are still very unclear in many organizations today. The whole coordination between commercial teams as well as the supply chain planning organizations are not always in sync. Oftentimes, the commercial teams are working on different proposals, different initiatives. How do we generate more revenue? How do we generate more margins? However, sometimes they don't fully understand what is the impact on the supply chain. What are additional costs that we may incur? And can we even support these new proposals? So the big question here is, yes, we will generate more revenue. We will generate more margin, but at what incremental costs? Sometimes that is not always clear today. So all of these three result in what we see on the right. Either we lose out on opportunities, we're not able to capitalize, or number two, we can capitalize on the opportunity, but likely it's going to come at a lower margin because of poor planning, poor reactivity. We often incur a lot more supply chain costs to support it. So next, what we're going to do is dive into a demo to show you all what the possibilities are, what is the art of the possible, and how can we use AI to truly accelerate and really drive agility throughout our organizations. So here, the background is again, I am a category planner for the pastries, and at the top, I am being alerted into a large gap to the plan. So if you look at the waterfall chart at the top, you will see what is my unconstrained outlook, what is my financial targets, and then what is that large gap? Again, I'm a pastry planner, and there's a very large gap to plan. And now I need to be able to find all of the different risks and opportunities that I can do to plug in this gap so we can reach our corporate targets. So in current state with O9, we already have a very powerful framework. So those of you who may be familiar with the R&O framework, we have a framework that pulls in different risks and opportunities from various source systems. They all flow into O9, as well as users have the ability to manually enter different risks and opportunities that may arise as well, so that we're really coordinating all the different functions directly in the platform. Everyone understands the different risks and opportunities, the statuses. We can run them through planning, et cetera. So again, current state with O9, there is already a very powerful framework, but how do we make this even better? How can we use AI to drive productivity and more agility? So that's what we're going to dive into next. So as a planner, I can now open up O9's agent, and I'm going to call upon what we call our RNO, or Risks and Opportunities agent. And with this, you can see that we have typed, hey, what are the top 10 risks and opportunities in the pastry category today? And when we run this, it's going to start looking through all of that unstructured data. We've already done a good job of structured risks and opportunities, but how do we get to the idea of potential opportunities into the system much faster? Imagine a planner doing today, combing through all of the different meeting transcripts, researching all of the web, the market trends, looking through all of the notes and comments. It could take days, weeks, sometimes even longer than that. What this RNO agent is doing is it's able to look through all of those unstructured data sources and come up with the top risks and opportunities that you can see on the screen currently. Now, the agent is also able to understand the context behind the words that it's finding in these meeting transcripts, for example. You can see a risk. It's going to understand, hey, if it's using terms that are, like geopolitical issues or constraints and things like that, it knows to tag it as a risk. And then it also understands things like demand upside and how to tag it as an opportunity. So it's already using all of that contextual knowledge and able to tag it to, hey, this is a risk or these are the opportunities. Next, you'll also see that it's tagging the source as well as the specific data elements that are in the planning system. So it understands, I need to look at the pastry category. I need to look at North America. And what I'm seeing here is the number one opportunity says there's a very big demand surge for Market Street donuts. Maybe it found something where it was talking about a competitor having issues, et cetera. But it's rising this as an opportunity for me as a planner. I no longer have to go dig. It's proposing it to me, and I can review and choose to go evaluate this and capitalize on these opportunities even faster. So now what we're going to do is take that first opportunity. I think this is a good idea. Hey, we have a demand surge in Market Street donuts in Canada. Let's see if we can make this and capitalize on this as an organization. So the next prompt here you see is, hey, can you send this opportunity to the relevant stakeholders? So another powerful thing is you no longer need to now understand who is the account manager for Market Street Donuts for the Canada region, who is the category manager, who's the demand planner. The system already understands all of that context, and now it's able to send it directly to the relevant stakeholders. So now it's thinking through those steps, and it's going to now send this RNO over, and then the right stakeholders are now able to work on it, collaborate on it, as they're going to be alerted to this potential opportunity that can arise. So just to summarize, the RNO agent, it really allows you to get from the idea of a potential risk or an opportunity flowing into the planning organization much faster with very high productivity. Okay, so now what are we seeing? So now that particular opportunity for the demand surge for Market Street Donuts is now into the system, and also O9 is able to then create these draft initiatives for that opportunity. So they're in draft state, but now it's rose to the relevant stakeholders, and now I can review, validate, confirm, maybe I wanna change the incremental volume or revenue we expect to get from this, maybe the start and end dates I wanna tweak. But all of this is now just an alert to me that I don't even need to worry about manually entering into the details. So next, as a planner, while the commercial teams are finalizing these proposals, I may want to understand, is this opportunity even feasible today? And so what I'm going to do next is call what we call our demand supportability agent. And this agent is going to be able to tell me, even without this opportunity, can I meet all of the demand for Market Street Donuts? So here what we're seeing is what is the demand supportability for the pastry category in Canada for the current year. So we're going to enter this, and it's going to start thinking, and it's going to review all of the different elements that are involved in this. So it's going to look at the current demand picture, the current supply picture, and it's going to tell me, yes, I can support all of the demand, or no, I'm not able to meet it, and why. So here we're seeing a summarized version, and it's saying, yes, we can fully meet all of the current demand. And what is that telling me as a planner is that if we do want to go forward with this demand surge opportunity, we currently have enough supply to be able to support all of this. In addition, I can actually ask it to go break down into further details and say, hey, can you show me the demand supportability month over month or quarter over quarter? So next, Umesh is going to ask it, can you break it down by month for Q4? And it's going to start to look at that demand supportability and give me a picture of how much of the demand can I meet from a supply perspective. Two things I want to call out here that are very important to note. So one is that you no longer have to really understand how to navigate the platform. This is very powerful in that you can use natural language. You're able to just interact with the platform without full training on how to filter the screens, which report to go to, how do I navigate to the right page. All of that is no longer necessary with the agentic AI framework. We're now able to just go in, ask it a question, and it's giving me a more detailed breakdown now by month. So I can see the demand supportability for October, November, and December. The next thing I'll also mention is there's also a graph that you saw as well. So O9 is able to create these different types of visuals and reports on the fly. So this is just an ad hoc report based on my question. So what we hear from a lot of companies today is, hey, we have way too many different reports and UIs and screens in our system. It's quite a big complaint today. It can bog down performance. It's hard to train. It's hard to navigate everywhere. And that often arises because you want to have these pre-configured reports for every edge case in the business. Hey, what if I need to look at this? What if I need to look at that? With this agentic AI framework, now it's able to create these reports on the fly. You no longer have to understand and make sure every single report is there. So what did we do so far? We've understand the current landscape for the pastry category. I understand that we can meet all of the current demand, but now I want to understand what if we do see a demand upside of 15% because we want to capitalize on this opportunity? Can we still support that decision? So next, we're going to call on that supportability agent one more time and ask it to say, hey, I want to do a demand upside by 15%. I think that I can capitalize on extra demand for that Market Street donuts because our competitor is having a lot of issues. Can I support this? Yes or no? So here we have asked the bot a question, help me analyze the feasibility, and now it's starting to think. Now let's dive deeper into what it's actually doing and what are all the key steps that are happening in this analysis. The first step it has to understand is what is the opportunity and how much extra demand am I going to get? The second step is it has to understand what is a forecast for Market Street donuts, and then it has to be able to edit that forecast and put an override to understand the additional demand that we can get. After that, it has to run the supply chain solver. And then after that, it has to do all the analysis, compare the scenarios, as well as recommend a path forward. So that's actually a lot of complex steps. And if you think about an organization, how many different roles and people are involved to run that type of analysis, it adds up to be quite a lot. So this supportability agent, in technical terms, is what we call a composite agent. It basically allows you to call upon very specialized agents, or you can think of them as different roles in your organization with skill sets, right? And it is able to now link that end-to-end decision-making and coordination, one single question, one single answer. So now what I'm seeing is absolutely we can help. Could you please provide the above information? So now I'm going to say yes, increase that demand quantity by 15%. And then I'm going to press enter so that it understands what it needs to do. As I mentioned, it's walking through all of those steps and really improving the productivity of the entire organization, as well as the synchronization and coordination of all of those roles. So now we can easily connect the commercial teams all the way to the supply chain planning teams very seamlessly in an easy manner. So now what we're going to see is the demand supportability results, and I believe it will tell us, yes, we are able to meet all of that extra demand, and what it'll also tell you is at what incremental cost. So if we go back to the very beginning of the current state, it's hard to understand financial trade-offs today, right? Oftentimes, commercial teams send over the initiatives, and then it gets to the planning organization, and by then it's a little bit too late. So here we're actually able to see, yes, we can meet all of this extra demand, and we can also understand that contribution margin. So it's going to tell me I'm going to need to use flex capacity. I'm going to have some overtime shifts to support all of that extra demand. But even so, I'm going to end up with higher margins, and so that's worth it to move forward. And so it's recommending, yes, let's capitalize on this opportunity today. One other thing I'll mention is then at the bottom, there are different references that the agent will pull, and these are all the specific links and direct navigations to the actual UI. So you don't have to only work in this agent type of environment. You can directly go into the actual reports, the UI, do further analysis, look into the details all you want. So here you can see that it's navigated me directly into the UI where I can see the scenario comparison. I can understand kind of the trade-offs before publishing and recommending the plan forward. The last thing we'll mention is as you go through the UI, you also see a narration bot. So basically, for any report in '09, we have this ability to do live narration. So it's going to actually summarize to me in plain English or plain language, what are we actually seeing? What are the key points? What are the recommendations, as you see here on the right? So what did we look at today? This morning, we talked about how risks and opportunities typically come into the planning organization, but the time from an idea to all the way to planning, it takes time. So with '09 and with this new agentic AI framework, these risks and opportunities can go from that idea stage to the full plan seamlessly, much faster than ever. Number two, we talked about those composite agents. So imagine how much of those activities that we're able to automate, those complex tasks where we talked about commercial teams and then the demand planner, running the solve, going all the way through supply planning. All of that is now automated seamlessly with these composite agents who are able to drive that productivity in the organization. So now you're able to run these end-to-end scenarios much more often and much faster. And finally, the expert plan analysis that really coordinates across for smarter financial decisions. So if we think back again to the current state, the third bullet was the financial trade-offs are not always clear. With '09 and with this new way of working, before the risk and opportunity is even fully defined, we're able to do that full end-to-end supportability and analysis of can we even support it and make sure our supply chains and our teams are set up to be much more agile. We can plan ahead and be much faster. Awesome. Thank you all so much.